Very good afternoon. ये 3 दिवसीय कार्यक्रम रेजिलियंस एंड सस्टेनेबिलिटी समिट का आखिरी सत्र, the final session of the 3 days resilience and sustainability summit, RES Summit Vision 2047. I now invite the dignitaries on the dais. The session will be chaired by Shri Kamal Kishore ji, Member Secretary NDMA. Kindly join in welcoming him. Shri Parveen Pardesi ji, Member Capacity Building Commission, Government of India. Shri H.K. Makwana, Additional Secretary Disaster Management, Government of India. Would you kindly assist them? Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, SERB. Shri Taj Hassan, Executive Director in IDM. Dr. Ashish Chaturvedi from GIZ. And Dr. Thomas Leonard. So because of the physical challenge, the dais are equally designed in a different way. So we have the equal honor to you all also, and Dr. Naren Agarwal. Dr. Naren Agarwal from Springer Nature. It is a matter of privilege to have the dignitaries here to grace this very important occasion. That is the summary, where we are going to discuss the summary and also the concluding aspects of the 3 days deliberations, which were comprised of 22 sessions in 2 locations. 13 sessions were organized here, sir, which were comprised of 3 keynote sessions, and there were 9 Parisamvad colloquy sessions. Those were organized in NIDM, GIZ, UNDP joint exposition in the first floor, and there were 9 topics on very, very specific issues. Those were covered under those Parisamvad sessions. The summit has been attended by more than 330 delegates, covering all the 3 days and all the sessions, including 115 speakers who share their views from the dais, but several delegates, or almost all the delegates, have shared their views through other ways also, like in the way of question answer or their bites, so they could express their viewpoints or remarks. That has been recorded. Before we proceed for further details of the summit and provide a summary of the summit, we would go for the national anthem, and I would request all to kindly raise to So once again, welcome dignitaries on the dais. as a token of our honor and respect for our dignitaries who have joined this session, we would like to request our former Additional Secretary, Disaster Management, to kindly honor our Secretary, Member Secretary NDMA with memento. Thank you, Madam. Now I would invite Dr. Naren Agarwal to kindly honor our Additional Secretary CHK Makwana. I would invite Shri Surendra Thakur, Joint Director in IDM, to kindly honor the Joint Secretary Disaster Management. We honor all the dignitaries on the dais and we feel pride. Sir, I know Sir has already been with us and we had the privilege and thank you, sir. So now, in order to present the summary, our team has prepared a short video of the glimpses of the summit. So I would request the IT team to please play the video. Please take care of the sound also. Thank you. The summit ended with each of the session have ended with some of the key recommendations which will be compiled and will be presented to the NDMA also and MHA also for their guidance for further identifying the key aspects and to develop some kind of a roadmap towards drawing a framework where based on which we can draw the vision of DRR for the futuristic aspects. These key aspects which have emerged, one is that DRR has to be established as a professional discipline, more particularly at looking at the localization of disaster risk reduction efforts. Second is how do we promote the operational research. So in newer dimensions, the research that can contribute towards the operational needs and improving the real actions on ground. So even the requirements of the field officers are the requirement of the local level planners, requirement of the implementers in disaster risk reduction, disaster management and disaster response aspects. The third aspect that emerged, that we have to utilize the networks. One is the network that an IDM has established, but beside that there are several network of institutions. So how do we develop synergy among various networks of various sectors also and integrate disaster risk management into their thought process and action. And the fourth dimension that has emerged, that in order to develop some kind of a standardization and accreditation system so that a multiplier effect in our capacity building endeavor is brought, so that we can address the huge capacity needs in all the across all the sectors and all the geographical levels also. So these are the 4-5 key aspects which have emerged repeatedly, besides almost 25 points which are the very important point that have emerged, but I am not reading all those 25 points here. So with this, now I would like to invite for the brief remarks from our partner institutions in organizing this 3 days Resilience and Sustainability Summit. Though we had 47 partners, including the international UN and academic partners, technical agencies, which were involved in organizing this summit. The role of GIZ, UNDP, Springer Nature and Sphere India, several others, they worked with us very closely on this. And this entire summit was organized under the umbrella program given by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India to NIDM as a Center of Excellence on Climate Resilience. The project title called CAPRES, Climate Adaptive Planning for Resilience and Sustainability. So the title Resilience and Sustainability, that also relates with the title of this summit. And the Department of Science and Technology is implementing 2 major missions. One on Himalayan ecosystem, the other one is on strategic knowledge for climate change. So this event was part of that cooperation, this knowledge on strategic knowledge on climate change under that with Department of Science and Technology. So the guidance and support from DST side has been very instrumental. During the preparation of this program, we had series of meetings with NDMA officials also, and Member Secretary has been kind enough to give his guidance, and that has helped us design in this summit in a much effective manner and more participatory. Sir, based on your recommendation, we designed the concept of this colloquy and also having the special keynote address, and we had the 3 keynotes, one by Dr. Shombi, the UN resident coordinator, second was by Dr. Diana today, and the Honorable Minister of State from Government of Maharashtra for Department of Forests and Cultural Affairs. He was also one of the keynote speaker, and besides many others. So I would like to invite for brief remarks Dr. Thomas Lenarch. You may come here on dais.
What an honor to be the first one speaking. Dr. Akhilesh Gupta from DST, Professor Anil Gupta from NIDM, distinguished dignitaries, panelists, participants. Let me start by thanking really our colleagues from the Department of Science and Technology and the National Institute for Disaster Management for organizing this Resilient and Sustainability Summit as a contribution to achieving the goals set by the Vision 2047 in India. resilience and sustainability are a crucial foundation for overall progress in the country. I would also like to thank the organizers for inviting us as GIZ to become a partner of this summit. The reduction of climate and disaster risk are core objectives of our cooperation projects in India, and therefore the summit was a big opportunity for us to, on the one hand, present our own approaches to people that are experts in this field, but also, and that's maybe more important, ask questions, listen and learn from all the experts here in the room, and that will certainly make our cooperation projects better in the future. Many thanks goes also to all you participants that spent some of their precious time here the last 3 days. You all listened patiently to what was talked. You also intervened, you brought in your own ideas, and that all made the summit as lively and as intriguing as it was. So me and my colleagues from GIZ, we took a lot of inspiration from this summit. And I just wanted to briefly summarize a couple of major or key takeaways that I can take home now. So on the one hand, when we talk about adaptation to climate change and disaster risk reduction, we should not forget that the challenges ahead are humongous, and that with every 10th of degree of global warming that we can avoid, that makes our big task a tiny bit easier. So whenever we talk about adaptation and disaster risk reduction, we should not forget that we also have to keep pushing for a sustainable and low carbon development worldwide in order to start decreasing the risk at that point. When it comes to DRR and climate resilience, I'm very happy to see that we do not start from scratch. The summit has showcased a lot of different initiatives and activities that are already implemented in this country, and there is a lot that we can actually build on. Maybe the trick is to kind of connect those strings and those dots a little bit better. What we learned from the discussions here is that partnership and multi-stakeholder engagements are essential for implementing the goals at the national, at the state level and at the local level. And I think successful are those approaches that actually strengthen the engagement across government agencies, across academia, that integrate the private sector and financial institutions as much as civil society. So a summit like this that brings all these stakeholders together will help us to make new connections and discuss new ideas with stakeholders that actually have maybe a different perspectives than ours. In line with this focus on partnerships, India and Germany in May 2022 entered into a partnership for green and sustainable development. And this partnership, which will be supported by the German government with at least 10 billion euros of financial commitment until 2030, aligns the entire portfolio of our bilateral cooperation with the goals of the Agenda 2030 and the Paris Agreement. So it aims to facilitate transformational approaches across sectors and strengthen collaboration of different stakeholders in these sectors. So the summit definitely provided new ideas that we can use for developing this partnership between India and Germany further. Another key takeaway is that strengthening resilience and reducing disaster risk is mainly achieved at the local level. So I know that there's also a lot going on at the local level. There are many initiatives and activities that are trying to improve situations there, but I think we still need to become better to strengthening local capacities and accelerating local action in these fields. We need to localize and mainstream the disaster risk reduction climate resilience agenda so that it really becomes an integral part of development planning at that level. And this also means that disaster risk reduction, climate adaptation and development planning can't be treated in isolation, but that they actually have to be integrated at a planning process, at a budgeting process, and then later in the implementation of activities. Last but not least, I would like to conclude that our approaches for disaster risk reduction and climate resilience can improve by making it more gender responsive and gender transformative. I think that we can no longer it can no longer be just enough to see women and girls as specific vulnerable target groups that need special attention when developing strategies and plans and activities. What we have to strive for is that we need to promote women's leadership actually in all those activities and strategies. I think that way our activities will definitely benefit. So these are some key takeaways that we as GIZ gained from this summit. This is obviously not an exhaustive list, and it's obviously a little bit subjective. Every one of you has probably a different list in his head, depending on the perspective that you come from. But I think what is important is that we stay in contact, that we follow up on the discussions that we had here at the summit, and that way we can ensure that we build on this exchange and that we keep collaborating so that we can realize a resilient and sustainable future for India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas Leonard, for outlining some of the key points that have emerged. Although there are a range of recommendations which have come out, but you highlighted some of the very important ones, and certainly we'll work together to consolidate the recommendations and to identify that which may be the immediate priority and which may be our midterm. Then we can decide the timelines also accordingly. Now I would like to invite from UNDP Dr. Ashish Chaturvedi, Head of EER Division, to reflect upon the proceedings of the summit.
Thank you, Anilji, and dignitaries on the dais. I won't take all the names, otherwise I'll run out of my 5 minutes very quickly. So it's delighted to be here, as I said, at the inauguration as well. Of course, we have a few key takeaways, as sort of Thomas just outlined. I have an entire team of people sitting here who've been copiously taking notes, and it's been a remarkable sort of event in terms of the scale of operations. The wide sort of array of colorful logos tells a story of its own. So in terms of what are the sort of major points that our team sort of thought of while sort of going through the 3 days. The first point is about sort of strengthening of institutions and capacities of networks for disaster risk reduction in the country. I think the kind of capacity, the kind of technical capabilities which are available in this room are quite remarkable because what we aim to do is create a network which can develop the DRR as a practice in this country. And I think this has been a goal which is shared with sort of our partners like the NDMA, and we're very delighted that an event like this can push this agenda forward. And I would really sort of recommend and sort of hope that we can all come together on a regular basis, hopefully every year, for an event like this, which brings the kind of expertise that we're talking about today. The other point, which kind of is a takeaway, is this entire idea of looking at capacity development for whom and on what. And I think there are a few areas that have been identified during the course of this these 2.5 days. The first one, and my team kind of jotted down a few points, the first one being more about sort of looking at monitoring mechanisms. So the NDMIS already exists. How do we actually take it down to the level of states? How do we take it down to the level of even further down from the states to the district level and make it much more a living, breathing document? Because there are many core benefits of something like that in even looking at methodological innovations. The other piece is about looking at finances. How do we mobilize, sort of course, existing and innovative instruments of finance, but also use the existing allocations of finance through the 15th Finance Commission. I think that's something which is really exciting, an agenda which will bring a lot of us together because the resource envelope is pretty significant and one can do really impactful work on the ground. The third piece is about looking at the use of technology in various ways, sort of looking at technology for monitoring, for early warning systems. The UN Secretary General's announcement of early warning covering and sort of course, covering the entire population, global population. I think it's very important that we use creatively the technology of all kinds and the digital technologies that are available, including the India Stack, which is a big innovation, which is a big story that India can take to the rest of the world. One could actually use something like the India Stack also for disaster, for this sector. And finally, the point around climate information and the right kind of climate information which can be utilized at the right moment, and also how to kind of include that to look at issues around loss and damage due to climate change as well. So this is an area which is developed alongside mitigation and adaptation, and we are very sort of excited about doing some kind of methodological work around the loss and damage piece, which can be a contribution from India to the rest of the world as well. I think there are lots of capacities within India on how to sort of develop methodologies, lots of sort of experiences around disaster management. I think that's something we should really think about developing and also offering to the rest of the world, which is sort of not necessarily talking only about South-South cooperation, but also thinking about South-North cooperation, where a lot of the North has to learn a lot from India as well. Our new country program cycles has begun this year in 2023. UNDP is available to support this. UNDP has been working quite extensively on disaster management with the Government of India, with the Ministry of Home Affairs, with the National Disaster Management Authority, with the National Institute of Disaster Management. We would be delighted to strengthen this partnership, and we have a clear focus on resilience going forward. So we would be available and, of course, willing to support all of the endeavors of the Government of India and priorities as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish Chaturvedi, for also linking to the future approaches as well, that how do we start taking next steps based on the recommendations and how would be able to identify. Certainly, we are committed to work together and also include many other partners in this journey under the able guidance of the Government of India, Ministry of Home Affairs and National Disaster Management Authority. And yes. So now I would like to invite our own Executive Director in IDM, Shri Taj Hassan, for his remarks at this occasion.
Dignitaries at the dais, Shri Kamal Kishore ji, Member Secretary NDMA, Shri Parveen Pardesi, Member Capacity Building Commission, Shri Makwana, Additional Secretary Disaster Management, Akhilesh Gupta Sahab, other dignitaries present here, panelists and participants, ladies and gentlemen. Now, after 3 days of deliberation, this summit has come to an end, and I must say my team, led by Mr. Anil Gupta and other members of NIDM, is strongly supported by DST under the leadership of Shri Akhilesh Gupta, from support from GIZ, UN, and other many organizations. This summit has discussed, dwelt upon, and suggested a course of action for the interest of DRR and sustainability. I must appreciate their hard work and their systematic, holistic approach. And as I heard from Mr. Anil Gupta, the recommendations are very meaningful. I would also like to say that quite often I have seen workshops and seminars, they repeat the same things. If you read the documents, old documents, it is the repetition of the same thing. Sometimes I feel it is cut and paste. For making it effective, we actually work for the field officers, for the policy makers, for the think tanks. For making it effective, it should be actually really new, relevant. In Hindi we say ayam, एक नए आयाम का होना चाहिए, नए perspective होने चाहिए at least, so that the relevancy for 3 days exercise are meaningful. In this sequence, now the main challenge is to document this and come up with suggestions, recommendations, which should be helpful for the policy makers. NDMA Member Secretary Chief is sitting here. he should not see it as if something run-of-mill, something very relevant, and he should, force to take action on this in the interest of DRR. So this documentation process, recommendation process, the actual work has to be done in a very professional manner. And I hope the expertise my team is having, Mr. Anil Gupta has done a lot of hard work, and other members of the team, GIZ, UN, DST, they all combined together, come up with a document which we should be able to circulate to all district magistrates so that they should know what is to be done. We should be able to circulate to all policy makers if there is a new thing, new perspective on which they have to make policy. Then the purpose and meaning of this 3 days summit would be more appropriate. NIDM will always support this. On behalf of NIDM, as Executive Director, I must say that all these endeavor we would support, something which is meaningful, something which helps in capacity building of all those trainers, teachers, ATIs, Police Training Institute, Forest Training Institutes. Their trainers should be enabled to impart better quality of training. We will be supporting that. And our network, IU, INDRR, and all our other endeavors, financial resilience and other aspects which our faculty members are doing, we would be supporting that. Here, I would request to Mr. Parveen Pardesi, Member Capacity Building Commission, that our institute is also involved in capacity building. How can we get help from him? That would be a big help for us. We intend to increase our capacity. NIDM is a small institute. It has got limited number of faculty members. We want that ATI and other training institutes should be strong. We should impart training to them, and they should conduct their own business at their level rather than be dependent on a small institute like NIDM. Of course, we are at national level for policy guidelines and many things we are working. Again, in the last, I think I should not take too much of time. All the audience would have heard lectures after lectures from various speakers. So I thank all my team, Professor Anil Gupta, and I see a lot of consultants sitting here and other members. I congratulate all of them. Thanks, and thanks to the other partners. There are so many partners, and primarily DST who supported this, GIZ, UN, other team members. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Executive Director and IDM, Mr. Taj Hassan, for assuring all support and also outlining the steps ahead for drawing the key recommendations and towards the ex-NABLE framework, which are the outcome of this summit. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Secretary, SERB, Department of Science and Technology, under whose guidance this thought process of having this Resilience and Sustainability Summit came up, and then finally we could implement. DST has always been very supportive, and in fact, we have already some kind of a roadmap for future cooperation and strengthening the state institutions in disaster management also, and State Climate Change Center also bringing synergy between them. So over to you, sir.
Chief guest of today's valedictory function, Dr. Kamal Kishore, Member NDMA, Member Secretary NDMA, Dr. Parveen Pardesi, Members CVS, Shri Makwana ji, Additional Secretary MHA, Shri Taj Hassan, Ashish Chaturvedi, Professor Anil Gupta, all the dignitaries sitting in this hall. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very eventful organization of summit. In fact, when we have been trying to in fact plan this, we were not sure about its success. I can see the success of this event is that on the last day and the last hour, of the summit, we have full house here. And that shows the, and I must compliment NIDM, Shutajasan and also Anil Gupta for really making effort in this direction. I'm told that, this is one of the very rare events where the women participation is nearly 40%. That never happens, now, you see, most of the events, we have, so that shows that in this area, the women are taking a lot of interest, and this is a good progress in terms of participation. Well, extreme events are going to increase. It is not in our hand, it is going to increase with the kind of climate change, the global warming taking place. We have no control. What is in our control is adaptation. How do we adapt the impact of these extreme events? That is in our hand. And that exactly is the deliberation that we are doing in this kind of summit. We did excellent work in terms of disaster preparedness and disaster management. I recall 2005 when this NDMA was set up. The focus of NDMA was preparedness rather than post-disaster action. And so that work has been done so well by NDMA and also the agencies involved in warning and focus, and then also taking it forward to the ground level. India also did well in research areas, and I want to say that an NIDM focus has been on training, but research and training cannot be separated, because unless you produce good knowledge, you cannot deliver good knowledge, disseminate good knowledge, and therefore that is very important, and I feel that we need to strengthen an NIDM with research support, and in this front I would say that CRV and DST are ready to provide all support whatever is required, in terms of any kind of financial or otherwise. And that will be really good, and NIDM can emerge as a national institute with both the research and training capacity in the country. And I would request that since Additional Secretary is here and also the member Secretary NDMA kindly consider this, that would be a really good idea to do. In fact, I'll tell you, we mentioned that this is a new branch of research has taken place recently in last 4-5 years. It's called extreme event attribution. This is a new research area. Globally, it has emerged in US and some of the European countries, and this is gaining momentum because unfortunately we have research in the area of weather, climate and all, but there is no branch of research in the area of focusing on extreme events and everything. Last 2 points I just want to mention that I think such kind of forum where I can see multidisciplinarity and multi-agency forum which has been able to organize put together. I think we need to continue this momentum, and this can become a permanent forum where all of us can join hand and organize this event annually. That will be really good because, we can, if in case it is required, we can kind of shift the leadership or organizing responsibility to other institutions if we want, but this can be, and I think we are ready to support that forum in the kind of a national forum on organizing such things, but this is going to be very important for this thing. Also, once we take this forward, we can involve, we can operationalize this offering. This is not just limited to organizing the event, but what comes out from this forum. We institutionalize the implementation strategy. So therefore, NIDM can set up a kind of institutional mechanism for implementation of this thing. I think very rightly said Guy Sutarsan that we often organize these events, but we do not have clarity on its implementation of recommendation. I think we need to institutionalize those things. I think with that I'll stop here because there's hardly any time for talking too much on this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for indicating on some of the important issues. One is that, in fact, that has emerged as a recommendation from many of the delegates also to make it as an annual event that every year this Resilience and Sustainability Summit should be organized. That has come from several fronts, this recommendation. So thank you for endorsing that also. And the second one is that about the research that supports the operational needs. Happy to share that the aspect of research and joining hands with various institutions in supporting research, fellowship on the lines of UGC, that is almost equivalent to DST also. Our governing body has also approved that proposal, and which was also vetted by the National Disaster Management Authority. So very happy to that you also reiterated on these two issues, very important. And thank you, sir, for the entire support that you provided from the beginning of the DST cooperation as CAPRES, and otherwise also in very, and more particularly for this particular the Resilience and Sustainability Summit. Thank you, sir, for your guidance. Now I would like to invite our Additional Secretary, Disaster Management, Government of India, Ministry of Home Affairs, Shri H.K. Makwana, sir, for his guiding words towards the end of this summit.
Respected Member Secretary of National Disaster Management Authority, Sri Kamal Kishwarji, dignitaries on dais, Sri Praveen Pardesi ji, Member Capacity Building Commission of India, Sri Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Secretary SCRB, Mr. Taj Hussain, Executive Director NIDM, Sri Sanjeev Jindal, Joint Secretary, Disaster Management in Ministry of Home Affairs, experts in this disaster management field. First of all, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to NIDM for inviting me and giving this opportunity. Among all the participants here, I think I may be the toddler in this disaster management because I have just joined 2 weeks back. But yes, as a district magistrate, sub-divisional magistrate, we had practical knowledge. In 2004, after tsunami, we struck in Tamil Nadu coast. I was also special officer around 1 month in tsunami-affected area. After some time, I also became a project director of tsunami rehabilitation project in Tamil Nadu. So some knowledge of disaster management is there, but yes, the knowledge what you all are having is phenomenal. This NIDM, they organized this summit, and this last 2.5 days, there's lot of deliberations, lot of discussions, and definitely it will come with excellent recommendations. And I could only assure that all these recommendations will be definitely whatever role of MHA disaster management division we have, we will definitely look into all these recommendations and whatever best possible, we will try to do that. As a first, this whatever recommendations would be there today, after this workshop, I am told that that is going to become a theme for discussion in our coming NPDRR summit, which is going to be on 10th and 11th of March, National Platform for Disasters Risk Reduction. So the third meeting of NPDRR is scheduled for 10th and 11th March at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. And I am told that this summit is the pre-event for NPDRR 2023. And the key outcome of this summit would feed into, or it would be discussed in this NPDRR. So this is a pre-event, as you all know. But before that, what recommendations would come, those things also will be discussed in MHA. I will not go into a lot of details because that you have already discussed in during the course of this 2.5 days. It is what is disasters and how India is placed, how India has to prepare. All these things you have already discussed. But yes, one thing I would like to convey here, NIDM has really taken a lot of efforts in conducting this workshop. And as Mr. Dr. Akhilesh Gupta rightly told that he was on the day of valedictory session, if this whole house is full, that means a lot of discussion has happened and everyone has got involved and everyone wants to see that something should happen even in valedictory function. But yes, in valedictory function on behalf of Ministry of Home Affairs, I can say what I told that we can look into all the recommendations diligently and whatever policy inputs are required or whatever policy decision has to be taken, we will definitely take. I will not take much time because I have also another meeting at 3:40. So I would take your leave, but yes, I will, our Joint Secretary will also be here and he will also, wherever need, he will also interact with all of you. So thank you very much for this opportunity and looking forward to work with all of you because already 47 partners are there. It's a good number, but yes, there may be possibility of having more partners because India needs this kind of interaction. We need this kind of inputs so that we can be more resilient to any disasters which will come in future. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir, for giving us the prescription that how we have to go ahead, and also that the key recommendations have to be brought out in a manner that can be further reviewed and we can look at those, and the support from Ministry of Home Affairs. NIDM is part of Ministry of Home Affairs. Certainly the partners will work on this and will submit to you shortly, sir. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion. Now, before we take the privilege of inviting the dignitaries for giving the Springer Nature Awards, it is our privilege to invite Shri Praveen Pardesi ji, Member Capacity Building Commission, for his address on this occasion.
It's really a great pleasure to be here and to have something like this national platform. What Mr. Makwana, our Additional Secretary, was saying, this is exactly that, the national platform which brings together diverse groups from academia, from the government, from Ministry of Science to a lot of the NGOs. So in a way, this is the national platform which has come up with very exciting recommendations for how to take the whole arena of climate resilience and disaster risk resilience forward. Let me start with a couple of issues which came out in this conference. One very interesting thing, I think Mr. Thomas was speaking about it in terms of local actions. Though we have policies at the global level, but we need to act locally. And I remember GIZ supported in Maharashtra the restoration of mangroves, which act as a refuge against cyclones. But the important point to remember is how we do these things differently. So by planting mangroves, we don't get mangroves, period. Maharashtra was able to get 104 square kilometers of mangroves new. What we do is we create livelihood value for mangroves. Basically, if we start crab farming, which grows only in mangroves, then private people do not cut down mangroves. So these types of innovative approaches, which evolve only locally, are the ways that we can multiply. Otherwise, at the national level, we have a national plan for afforestation, which may not immediately work in that way. The second issue is about, very interestingly brought about, and I really compliment Mr. Akhilesh ji to pointing out this, that in this conference we have a slightly better gender balance. I'm always very embarrassed in the very few meetings which my wife ever attends in the government. She always gets a sort of a shock that there'll be 25 men and not a single, and we think we are deciding about national priorities. So here, the gender balance is very much on the right side. But there's a reason more than the fact that women take interest in disaster. That's, I don't think, the main reason. Again, I'll come back to a small story. I used to be Secretary Forest, and that's an area of very passionate interest. I think one of the most important things that we are doing in UNFCCC is restoring ecosystems, because nature plays the best refuge against climate change. But while doing this, in an area called Tadoba, if there is a man-eating tiger, she doesn't eat men, she eats only women. So we had like 7-8 deaths of women by this. Now it's the butterfly effect. You know that if a butterfly puts out wings in the Amazon, we might have a typhoon in the Pacific Ocean. So when women were being killed by these tigers, 2-3 things came forward. Finally, it ended in a partnership between tigers and women. It's very interesting. So today, in this park, tigers pay for women's livelihood. And how did this magic happen? It's the same butterfly effect. So because women are the only ones who go out for work in the forests. Men generally sit around in the towns or do talking in the village, but they go and collect fuel wood, they go and collect the fodder for their cattle. And also at night they had to go out for using the open. So all of these things got collated into one issue, which is women are at the brunt of any conservation effects. So when the Tiger Project moved forward, they said, let's do one thing. Let's jack up the ecosystem service charges for entry into the park. So while the park was making 17 lakh rupees, it today makes 25 crores. Secondly, they use digital transformation, another, the India Stack. People would call up some VIPs to enter the park. No longer they have to book it online. All of this ensured that the park makes 25 crores. The park doesn't make it, the tigers make it. People come to see wild tigers. That money was rechannelized back to women. Today, every single women family, this is more than 100,000 families living outside the Tadoba Park, have fuel wood based on cooking gas with cylinders replaced, again from the revenue. So basically, it's a partnership where women no longer have to go out to collect fuel wood and face the brunt of the tiger, because the tiger is paying them back in relation to the conservation effort that's happening. So getting women in the center stage of action for something like biodiversity conservation is, I think, one of the key lessons. My final point on this issue is, we feel a lot, and I spoke about it, that the UNFCCC is really a breakthrough, damage and loss, and we are doing a lot of calculations about, what is the extent of mitigation and other money that the damage and loss will provide for. And I was recently in a conference also in Bangladesh, which of course is very badly affected. But to rely on this level of and scale of funding at the international level to take care of mitigation problems, it's not going to happen. So what it means is to act now with local resources, and that's very much possible in the entire range of sectors. I think Kamal Kishore told me a very big point that India always acts at scale on any problem, which we just take for granted, but which is an important learning. The other issue is out-of-box learnings. For example, we are talking about Joshimath shifting down or sinking, and we are building a lot of roads and infrastructure in the Himalayas. So this is a very big opportunity for India's efforts at the global level, because again, I think Kamal Kishore ji was at the key for getting something called the Infrastructure Disaster Risk Alliance at the global level, the CDRI. So looking at that issue of the mountains, these problems have been solved in some parts of the world, but they are not solved everywhere evenly. So for example, in India, when we are building roads at the very high mountain areas, every few meters, because of landslides and unstable geology, it's coming down. The quality of the road itself is not poor. It's quality of a holistic approach of looking at the geology, which is poor. But I saw for myself that there are formulae in the NGI, the Norwegian Geological Institute, and in ETH in Switzerland, which predict that if the geology is so weak, then it's no longer possible to cut a road through it. It's better to tunnel through it. And though the tunnel might be costlier now, in the long run, it's cheaper because of the number of times that the road gets cut off because of landslides and you have to restore it. It's better to spend higher money upfront than to wait for doing the cutting and then allowing the road to go out. So these are things that we can learn so that the world has a collective access to information in all of this. And this really is a very good platform. As a member of the Capacity Building Commission, we are talking very closely to NDMA, which is the premier institution to try to bring about capacity enhancement, not so much at the national level, because I think NDMA, in terms of excellence of guidelines on almost every sector of disaster management, is probably at the cutting edge. So for that, I really don't have, I spent more than 10, 15 years in the international sector, and I know that NDMA guidelines are among the best. But how do you percolate that to state, that is the state disaster management authorities, even further to the district management authorities, and lastly, where it matters most, as Thomas, you mentioned, at the local level. So at the local level, officers change, and we still focus on training officers. So it doesn't matter if we change officers, because the person whom you train on early warning in a village is no longer posted there when the actual cyclone or tsunami comes. But who live there permanently? Local citizens. So you can't train hundreds of citizens and thousands of citizens. So we should hone in on elected representatives, which is Gram Panchayat, Sarpanch, because they are permanent residents of the village. And once they acquire knowledge, it really stays in the community. So my last point was that in a platform like this, it's important to have officers, academia, yes, but we need to get Sarpanch or some of the mayors or some of the elected representatives so that they can transfer this knowledge. And we don't need to call everybody. We can just focus on a few high-risk districts, high-risk villages, so that this information can go right down. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting some of the very practical tips for arriving at the solutions. Also looking at the indigenous possibilities. So that's very important and for your deliberation. Now, to mention to the dignitaries that this Resilience and Sustainability Summit has representation from 29 states and few UTs, and more than 17 ministries are also participating in this forum as delegates, besides the speakers and resource persons, besides the UN agencies, technical and other institutions. As we all know that Springer Nature is a publishing giant it's a global publishing house on various themes of science, social sciences. They publish a lot, and they initiated a series on disaster resilience and green growth in the year 2019, and that has been launched in the month of September in 2019 in the conference that NIDM organized in Constitution Club of India. For this Resilience and Sustainability Summit, they instituted an award called the Springer Nature Best Paper Award, and a pre-event of this summit was organized on 28th of November, and the 33 researchers made their presentations, and based on their presentations and the full papers that they submitted, the 11 papers were identified as the best papers for the Springer Nature Award. This is also the occasion that we'll request the dignitaries to give away the awards to those who perform. All of them performed very good, but some were chosen based on their performance and other yardsticks for this award. So I would request the chief guest, Shri Kamal Kishore ji, to give the award. I will be reading the names, and to witness this occasion, I would also invite the director of editorial director, Dr. Naren Agarwal from Springer Nature, to please join on the dais. So I'll inform about the award also. There are 11 awards. 5 are appreciation awards. 3 awards are the third prize, third awards, and 2 are the second award, and 1 is the first award. First awardee will be given an award of equal to 600 euro and a citation. Then 400, the second one will be given the 400, and similarly the third one is 300 euro. So I would be inviting for the appreciation award, I would invite Mr. Chandrasekhar Bahinipati. His research was focused on building resilient states to climate-related extreme events in India. Recently, he has published a good paper on the methodologies for damage and loss assessments as well. Congratulations, Dr. Bahinipati. The second awardee is Mr. Sibananda Senapati. His paper was entitled, Does Development Reduces Loss and Damage to Flood-Related Disaster? A Study from Bihar, India. The next, Mrs. Saumitri V.R. Mrs. Saumitri V.R. accompanied by okay, so they jointly authored this paper. The paper title was Rural Water Security Through Climate Lens, an Integrated Resilience Approach. The next award is Dr. Lenin Babu. Dr. Lenin Babu, his paper title was Bottlenecks to Resilience in Drought-Prone Regions and a Roadmap for an Aspirational Districts of Karnataka. Next, Satvika Pancholi. Satvika Pancholi, her paper was entitled Earthquake Resilience of Pole Houses in Ahmedabad. Third. Thank you. Thank you. Now we go to the third prize. We have 3 awardees in this category. The third prize, the first one, Manasi Gumfekar. For third prize, 3 awardees are there. Each is being given 300 euro worth. The gift worth 300 euros. Yeah.
What's your principal insight?
Thank you. So next is Ram Kanta Naik.
Assessment of vulnerability in resilience practice in agriculture to community-based disaster risk reduction approach. Case study of border village in Kalahandi.
Kalandi, Orissa. Next is Dr. R. Mathia Jagan. Dr. R. Mathia Jagan. So we'll go to second prize, that is each one is getting 400 euro along with the citation. Ms. Sasmita Behra. Sashmita, my apology. The second prize is to Miss Richa and Subir Sen. And same category, Mr. Devdutt Sen Gupta. Richa, Miss Richa. She's from IIT Roorkee.
Reduce mobility and evidence-based study in
Bihar.
Bihar. What is happening? Is there mobility related to climate? It is not really adaptation.
So Devdutt Sen Gupta. The title is Blue Green Infrastructure, Part of the Future Planning of Indian Megacities.
Blue-green infrastructure, part of the future planning for Indian
And now comes the name for the first prize that goes to Ms. Sasmita Behra for 600 euros.
comprehensive methodology for post-disaster damages, loss and needs. You will be very busy.
Thank you, sir, for this, for honoring the Springer Nature Awardee. Now I would like to invite Shri Kamal Kishore ji, Secretary NDMA, for his inaugural valedictory address.
Good afternoon, everyone, delegates, colleagues, friends on the dais and in the audience. Before I deliver what is written here as special address, I don't know how special I can make my special address after Tiger and Women Partnership. You know, I don't think there can be anything more special than that. But I'll try to say something. But before I do that, I think the most enjoyable part was this looking at the research that young people are doing. Praveenji and I read out each one and we tried to engage in a conversation as well. And it's very interesting to see that the winners sort of mimic the priorities that we have in the country right now. So 3 of the awardees are working on drought problems, 2 are on flood, so 5 on water related. And there are 3 on looking at broader environmental issues and 2 on methodological issues. I'm very curious to see that not even one winner working on cyclones, which probably means that we've made some progress on cyclones, and that doesn't seem like a priority right now. We have made progress, but I would like to say that even in cyclones, we should not rest on our achievements. We have to go beyond saving lives to also saving livelihoods. We want to be in a situation where each house is strong enough to withstand a cyclone so that you actually don't need to move people to cyclone shelters. So you know, that's just a reflection. So very, very encouraging. I think if you know, young people are engaging with these issues and studying these issues in detail, I think we can plan for an early retirement. So with that, I just wanted to say a few things. I don't have any prepared remarks. The first thing I want to say is that huge congratulations to the organizers, NIDM, the DG of NIDM, Mr. Taj Hassan, Professor Anil Gupta, his very able, energetic, enthusiastic, collaborative team. I would also like to acknowledge all the partners, including DST, as well as so many others, the German government. And, you know, I don't want to read out all the 47 names here, but it's really encouraging. I think this event was positioned as a sort of pre-event to the national platform. So, and this was really a fitting pre-event for the national platform. I want to, after this, I want to just say 2 things. The first thing I want to say a few things about, some of the national priorities. I think most of that was covered by Praveenji when he made his remarks, and I think that is really the key. Localization of disaster risk reduction. I think we have to work on strengthening state disaster management authorities, district disaster management authorities, strengthening capacities in a sustainable way at a really local level. There was a mention made of working with Panchayati Raj institutions. So that's really a priority, taking this down to the local level and really deepening disaster risk management in the country. The second thing I want to say is that more and more you will see in the coming year, in 2023, you will see NDMA trying to build strong, sustainable partnership with key ministries and departments of Government of India. The partnership with Capacity Building Commission is a part of that effort. We are developing a program jointly with Ministry of with Jal Shakti. We are developing a program with urban development, a large program on earthquakes, with the Panchayati Raj Ministry, so Department of Education. So I think 5-6 key ministries with them, longer sustained programs is something which is a priority. The third thing that I want to say is that there is a need. Of course, we've been saying for the last 15 years that we have to make a paradigm shift from response to preparedness and risk reduction. But sometimes we have to ask, have we done enough of that? Or we've been talking a lot but not doing enough. So we really want to sort of transform that. And for that, there is no excuse now. We have, the resources available through the Finance Commission. Mr. Jindal from MHE is here. He looks after the SDRF, NDRF, NDMF, SDMF windows. We have significant resources. No other country in the world has dedicated financing for mitigation that we have. But, we really, first we asked for money, now we have it. And now that is a challenge to sort of spend it well. So I think having capacities, systems, and processes in place to actually turn that money into concrete programs that deliver results for the people is a big challenge. So these are some of the priorities. I want to say a few things about coming months. Praveenji also mentioned that there are so many things that we can share with the world. It was said by other people as well. For the first time in the history of G20, we can claim some credit for it, that as a result of India's advocacy, disaster risk reduction is going to be a theme under G20. G20 is a powerful group of big economies. If an issue is discussed there, it's a group to discuss the stability of the global economic system and development. So if it is on G20 agenda, which means the issue has really arrived on a very, very important platform, and it is recognized as a central development issue and not as a marginal issue. So as a part of that, we will have a number of working group meetings, which will lead to a communique, which will feed into Leaders Summit. I would encourage all of you who are present here, who have participated in this event, to engage with these discussions. There is there's an issues paper that we had released. It's there on the G20 Secretariat website. It's there on NDMA website, and many of you already have it. There are 5 priorities. It is not a replication of everything that is there in Sendai framework. It's just 5 strategic priorities. The first one, looking at early warning for all, meaning early warning for every single person on planet Earth. Second is resilient infrastructure. Third is looking at improving national financing frameworks for disaster risk reduction. Fourth is looking at ecosystem-based approaches to disaster risk management. And the final one is improving the disaster response systems locally, nationally, and internationally. So in the previous remarks, you saw that in all of these areas, there is some work that is happening in the country. There's a lot we can learn from the world, and there's a lot we can share with the world. So in the next few months, I hope that there will be a lot of energy, enthusiasm to engage with these conversations for benefiting our own 1.4 billion people, but also contributing to a safer, resilient planet. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for clearly giving us the guideline. Also, the directions that how we are looking at the G20 presidency as an opportunity to promote DRR agenda also, and also within DRR agenda, how we are looking at promoting India's leadership, because India is the true lab of disaster management, having wide and diverse experiences as well. We'll surely work on your guidelines and will try our best to contribute and provide any kind of assistance that NDMA or Ministry of Home Affairs requires in these directions for drafting anything or any other kind of aspects where an IDM and we all can contribute. So thank you so much, sir, for gracing this very important occasion. Thank you for giving away the awards also to young researchers that will encourage many more researchers to come forward and take such kind of interest in. Now, moving towards the end of this session that was titled as The Call Together and Road Ahead. That's very important because we titled this session as Call Together. Because when we are talking about cooperation, when we talking about network, so basically the key aspects of future strategy should also be worked out together. And that was basically reflected in the organizing of this Resilience and Sustainability Summit. It was a multi-partner, multi-ministry initiative, and several organizations participated and provided their insights. And while we will be drafting the actionable points based on the outcome also, then the roles and responsibilities, support and contributions from various institutions would be required, and then certainly we will be discussing with them also. Now I would like to invite my colleague Dr. Sushma Guleria, Assistant Professor of NIDM, to give a formal vote of thanks. Dr. Sushma, please.
It is said that endings are important as they set base for new beginnings. And here we are today, we have come to the culmination of the 3 days Resilience and Sustainability Summit, only to march on a new endeavor. The event saw the involvement of more than 47 national and international organizers as partners and participation of over 300 delegates. With great pleasure, on behalf of the organizing team, I take this opportunity to thank Shri Krishna Vatsa sir, member NDMA, Shri Taj Hasan sir, ED NIDM, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta sir, Secretary SERB DST, Dr. Rodrigo H. Offred, WHO representative to India, Mr. Dennis Curry, Deputy Residential Representative UNDP, Shri Akhilesh Sinha, G20 MEA, for joining us during the inaugural session on the 17th. We also take this opportunity to specially thank Dr. Shombi Sharp, UN Resident Coordinator India, Shri Sudhir Mungtavir, Honorable Minister, Forest, Cultural Affairs and Fisheries, Government of Maharashtra, Dr. Diana Patricia, Deputy Chief UNDRR Asia Pacific, Dr. Sonam Wangchuk, Director SACM Ladakh, Professor V.K. Sharma, Vice Chancellor Sikkim SDMA, Professor Santosh Kumar sir from NIDM, and Dr. Rajendra Singh sir, member NDMA, for their keynote addresses during all the 3 days of the event. The organizers would also like to thank all the technical session and the Parisamvad chairs, co-chairs, moderators, and speakers for the deliberations. We take this opportunity to also thank Shri Kamal Kishore sir, Member Secretary NDMA, Shri H.K. Makwana sir, ASDM MHA, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta sir, Secretary SERB DST, Shri Sanjeev Kumar Jindal sir, JSDM MHA, Shri Praveen Pardesi sir, a Member Capacity Building Commissioner, Government of India, Dr. Ashish Chaturvedi, Head EER Division, Dr. Thomas Lenzar, Director CC and Circular Economy GIZ, Professor Anil K. Gupta, HOD ECDRM Division, and also Shri Taj Hasan sir, ED NIDM, for joining during the valedictory session. We would like to mention a special reference to the Springer Nation and Dr. Naren Agrawal from representing the Springer Nation for the Special Springer Nation Awards also. The event would not have been possible without diligent work put up by all the organizers, the team for smoothly conceiving and executing the event. Kudos to all their efforts, and above all to all the participants who joined us today for this 3 days event. Thank you all. Good evening and be safe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you to Dr. Sushma Guleria, the entire team, the event agency, Vigyan Bhavan, officials and staff, and all team of NIDM, GIZ, UNDP, and all the partners. Thank you very much. I would request for a minute, sir, for a group photo. Sir, quickly, sir. Everything is ready, sir. नहीं सर, यहीं पे हो जाएगा, यहीं पे हो जाएगा. हाँ, आ जाइए, please. Sushma, please come. No, come. Thakur ji. Yes, madam also. Madam is here. Madam, please. Madam, please. जो आ जाए सब आ जाओ अपने से आ जाओ सर बातें कर रहा हूँ सर के बगल में खड़े होकर बड़ा रिस्क हम दिखते ही नहीं इतने छोटे हो जाते हैं
So you know you take the limelight.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Thank you, sir. Great effort.
Now I invite you all for high tea. It is arranged in the foyer.